Brothers and the occasional sister joining us. The year is 1994. I woke in a park in Fulda in Germany. Summertime. The smell of the hot concrete and the hot tar seal. It makes a smell of the city. This park I was in was right next to the city, and the smell of people and industrial things and life and exotic foods was all mingling, but it was summertime. I had a silk shirt on and a loose pair of pants. I was leaning against my pack. I'd been asleep and tired. I was actually quite depressed. I wouldn't say clinically depressed, just depressed overall. I'd just finished a circuit of 52 nights playing concert, night after night, back to back. And I'd taken some powder the night before, up the nose, just to get through the night. I was burnt out. Lucky for me, I had 2.5 weeks break. It would be the first break I'd have in a long time. I looked around the park. There was a guy juggling, some guys playing hacky sack, some cool people. The day seemed to just shine down on me, and a breeze, it blew through and it carried all the smells of the city, those smells that you get. And I thought to myself, everybody's got to be somewhere. I guess being here is as good as any place. But I was lonely. Crazy that I would be so lonely, because the night before I'd been surrounded by hundreds of people on stage and the audience when I'd gone around with my tambourine gathering tips. But I had a deep loneliness inside myself, a void I couldn't fill. I couldn't fill it with women. I couldn't fill it with whiskey. Couldn't even fill it with song. This emptiness just was getting worse and worse, and it had come about since I'd lost the woman I loved. She'd left me for better things. I had to somehow get out of this trap of my mind, because it wasn't healthy, and I was losing weight. Physically I wasn't looking good, but mentally I was becoming negative, and that's not the nature of who I am. That's not who I am. I'm not a negative person, but I was starting to have negative thoughts about things, saying stupid things to myself like, why bother? What's it worth? Why should I even care? These silly sentences rolling through my head. So I made an executive decision to get the hell out of that situation. I had time to spare. Should I go to another country? But you can't just pack up your stuff and go and leave your troubles behind, because you pack all your troubles up with you when you travel. So I didn't go too far at all, actually. I went into town and had a first meal of the day, and it was a good meal. I normally didn't buy Japanese food. This was sushi bit in plates, and it was all sorts of really nice, lovely cuts. First time I'd eaten fish in a long time, and a rare thing in this place in Germany to have a sushi bar, but there was one there, and I remember eating all the salad and thinking, this is the first greens I've had in a long, long time. The waitress was an elderly lady, and it's hard to tell the age of a lot of Asian people. She could have been like 45 or she could have been 85, just no way of knowing, but she was very, very friendly. And when I finished the meal, I walked away and thanked her very much, left a very, very large tip because I was feeling just generous or wanted to give something to somebody, and carried on down the Straße. I stopped. There was a shop and it had incense burning in it, and I could smell the smell of yin yang coming out of the shop and a mixture of rose. I walked inside a little bit, and there was a young woman in there. Maybe she was in her early 20s. By now I was 31 years old, maybe. This is a rough guess, maybe 30. I think I was probably 30 actually. And I looked at her and I thought to myself, I'm already at an age now where she's too young for me to look at. I'm already at that age where I'm growing old so quickly before my time, because inside myself I still felt like I was only 16, 17 years of age. But my reflection in the shop window told a different story. And the road had been pretty hard. I'd been getting a lot of sleep and a lot of good food. She smiled at me and gave me that smile of welcome and said, hello. I said, hello. And I looked around the shop as if I was going to find an answer for something, but there was nothing there. There was all these trinkets from India and things from other countries, and books that I couldn't read because they were in German, although I could speak German by now, but didn't really have much that I could find. And as I left, she handed me a pamphlet. And I normally hate it when people hand me pamphlets. Normally I put them in the rubbish, and I just said thank you, and I stuffed it in my pocket, and I didn't think anything of it. That night I wanted to get to a hotel because I was badly in need of a shower and a wash and to clean my clothes. I've been doing it hard on the road of playing concerts in these Irish pubs. And I went into this hotel, it was quite cheap, and I had a shower, and the shower was just too hot. I actually burnt myself on the shower. I still remember how it felt. It was like too hot. I actually burnt my back on it, jumped out of the shower, felt uncomfortable. It wasn't a bad burn, but it was just too hot. And then I set it right, jumped back in, and finally got the temperature just right. But it kept on changing, and I was getting irritated because I couldn't get a nice, comfortable heat to get in. Eventually, I put it on to cold. Now, it was summertime, so I had a cold shower, and I sat under the cold shower for about 2 or 3 minutes, just making myself cold. And when I came out, I felt completely different. I felt really elated and lifted, and it actually picked my spirits up. I went out on the veranda and the balcony, had a cigarette, and looked around and thought to myself, I've really got to stop smoking. Yeah, that was a stupid habit that I'd picked up along the way. And I've really got to stop drinking as much as I'm drinking. And I've got to stop doing all these other things. I've got to start making some better choices. Man's got to live with the choices he makes. I sat in a hotel, didn't watch the TV because it was just... Well, one thing I did enjoy was MTV, which was music. But I wanted to get away from music. I didn't want to hear any music. I've been making music day after day after day. I wanted something peaceful. I flicked through a couple of channels, there wasn't much, turned that off and lay on the bed. I sat back and I dug into my pocket and I pulled out this scrumpled up piece of paper and pulled it out, and on it had retreat. I thought, this will be some hippie thing. I looked at it, and it was run by, they don't eat meat. Who was it? Starts with K, forget it. It wasn't Hare Krishna. The Hare Krishna were running this retreat. I thought that'll be a bunch of hippies and that won't be me. But it sort of got my attention, and it wasn't in the town I was at, and I thought maybe I should go to something like this. Maybe I should try something different and just broaden my horizons. The following morning I went back to the shop to ask the girl a little bit about it. And she said to me, "What are you looking for?" And I told her the absolute truth. I said, "I'm a bit empty inside, I'm a bit lost, I don't know where I'm going anymore. I know what I'm doing physically, but I just feel like there's a big hole inside myself." She said to me, "You don't want to go on this retreat." I said, "Don't I?" She said, No. She said, "You want to come to our group tonight?" I said, "Do I?" She said, "Yeah." She said, "Where are you staying?" I told her the place I was staying. She said, "You can come and stay at my place. I live with 3 others." I said, "Really?" She said, "Yeah." The music and the guitar and the honesty, I don't know, people often open their homes up to me. This was not uncommon for me. So I hung around the city that day. I bought a whole lot of food to bring to their place because I always wanted to bring stuff. And I bought a whole lot of different vegetables and fruits and some cuts of meat, some cheese. I actually bought some New Zealand lamb from a place called, a very cheap shop over there. And here was this export lamb that was cheaper to buy there than we can buy it in New Zealand. Couldn't believe it. There's a name for the shop and it just eludes me right now. I turned up and met her flatmates, and they were all older than her, and they were all very, very cool people, all very, very positive. And straight away I felt like I was in this group of really cool people. None of them, like me, smoked, so I didn't smoke that night. They cooked a really lovely meal, and I love cooking, and they cooked a really lovely meal of butter chicken, and they did it in a way which I'd never had it before, and we sat around eating butter chicken, and I took the guitar out that night and we sung songs. And what did we sing? We sang Cat Stevens songs. I think the first song was Cat Stevens songs. La 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 la. Yeah, Wild World. La 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 la. La 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 la. La 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 la. And so forth, you know the song. And we did some Cat Stevens, and we did some Eric Clapton. There ain't nothing that is wrong wanting you to stay here with me. I know you got some place to go, Won't you lay your worries down and stay with me? Don't you ever leave. You know the song, Lay Down Sally, goes on. We did a whole lot of music, and this was my gift to them. And somebody eventually took out a drink, and they weren't drinkers or smokers. One person took out a drink, and I was expecting the drinks to come out much earlier. Now, I've never really been a big beer drinker. I was more of a whiskey drinker. But these guys, they started, first of all, with just one beer, and only a small beer, in a bottle to a cup, so it wasn't cans, and just drinking quietly. And as I played more, the beers started to come out more. Not crazy drunk, but just nice drunk. And I had just the one beer I was drinking. As I was drinking, I was starting to think, here I am on my night off, where I work every night playing music, and I'm playing music again, but I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it because there's no pressure. I don't have to go around and ask for tips, which I never enjoyed doing. I'm just doing something which I enjoy. This is what I started out doing, but it became something commercial. I thought eventually I'm going to stop doing this. And everybody's singing, you know. Everyone's singing together, and everyone vibing together. It's a good feeling. And I've forgotten about all my blues, my bad feeling. And this guy turned to me and he said, bro, I'm sorry, I can't remember the girl's name. I've been trying the whole story and it just won't come to me. And I'm not going to make one up because then I'll get all mixed up if it does come to me. So just bear with me. Maybe it comes to me because these stories are 30 years ago. He says, bro, the girl in the shop I met, she told us your situation and we think you should come to our group tomorrow. I said, what is it? He said, well, they're all Buddhists. And I thought, oh, here we go. And they've gone Hare Krishna, now Buddhists. And I said, are you guys Buddhists? And they said, no, we're not Buddhists. Buddhists don't eat meat, but these guys are Buddhists and we hang out with them sometimes. And I thought that'd be a cool thing to do. I was open to anything. That night, after playing a few songs and having a few drinks, I went to bed reasonably early for me. And the next morning, woke up. The day was a beautiful sunny day. And somebody was making some, I think it's in German they call it Kirschkuchen. It's made of cherries because Kirsch is cherries, and it's like a cake. And I could smell it cooking, and the smell was coming up. I was upstairs. It was up and downstairs, and the downstairs was where the cooking was. I was upstairs, and the smell was coming up to the room I was in. And when I got down to the room there. Oh, Claudia. Knew it would come to me. Claudia, that was the woman in the shop. Claudia goes, coffee? And I went, yeah. And Claudia comes up and she's got this beautiful smile, big wide smile, and she gives me this coffee. And her flatmate, an older woman, and I don't remember her name, she gave me this big slice of Kirschkuchen, and oh my God, it tasted good. Probably not the most healthy breakfast to have, but it was like, well, pretty good. It's got cherries in it, I guess. And probably sugar and a whole lot of other stuff. So I had that breakfast, and the day was a day of just going into town and not working too hard. And at 3 o'clock, I met everybody in this place in the forest where these Buddhists were. And it was like a retreat, and they had a big area. And first of all, they were doing a little bit of just some yoga and some breathing stuff, and I went along with that, and it didn't seem like anything spectacular, just like nothing was going, and more breathing, lots of breathing. This guy was talking in German, this Buddhist, and people were a little bit serious, and I thought it's not really going to be that interesting. So then we had to do this thing of silence for an hour, where we just had to sit still. And man, it drove me bananas. You couldn't talk. And these guys do these silent retreats for days. I was thinking, I can't even do a frigging hour. So it's absolute silence. I'm like, shit. There's all my thoughts flooding my head, and I'm like sitting there. And this guy comes up to me and goes, let your thoughts be like a leaf floating on the top of a river. Let them float away. Don't hold on to them. So I tried that for a while. Yeah, didn't really work, to be honest. I kept on thinking about where I was going to buy the next packet of strings and where I'll be staying next week. And the girl over there looked quite nice. I wonder if I could talk to her. And he talked to me and he goes, silent your thoughts. And I thought, yeah, okay, I'll try it again. Couldn't do it. I'm doing the breathing, trying to imagine the leaf floating on the river. None of it's working for me. And then he comes over and he says, turn the chattering monkey off in your head. And I thought, I don't have a chattering... Oh, the chattering monkey. I am the chattering monkey, yeah. Tried to do that, couldn't. Then we did some technique of breathing again and letting everything flow, and I wasn't particularly good at it. Something I often talk about in the Brocheck Club, and this is where I learned it from. He said to me, "You are suffering." And I said, "No." And he said, "You're suffering." And I said, "No, I'm not." He said, "You are suffering." And I realised I was suffering. Of course I was suffering, that's why I was there. And then I said to him, "Yeah, I'm suffering. I am suffering." And he said to me, and this is something I've talked about before, he said, "Man is prepared to fight and die for the cause, but not give up the cause of his suffering." And I thought about that. What's the cause of my suffering? I said to him, he said, "That's something you've got to find out. What's causing me to suffer?" He said, that's your journey. That's what you've got to find." I thought, well, I know I've got a broken heart. And I said, well, I love this girl and I don't seem to be able to shake off that feeling. He said, "You want to get something that you never had." I said, "Yes, I did. I had love. It was wonderful. We went out, we did things together. We made love. We walked on the beaches in different countries. She came to my country, New Zealand. I had thoughts of marrying her and thoughts of having children with her." He said, "That was your thoughts, not her thoughts." I said, "No, we talked about these things." He said, "She never wanted to." I got angry. I said, "But we were in love." He said, "Yes, but you attached too much to it that wasn't true and wasn't really your reality." I said, "I don't know about that." I didn't really agree with everything he said. He said, "You must now unattach from something that is no longer. Otherwise you deny yourself the present moment now." I thought about that and I thought, well, he's right about that. How? I said, "How do you do it? What do you do? What's the trick?" He said that there is something that is your journey to find out. How you find out what it is that's caused your suffering and how you detach yourself from that. And I thought, well, that's easy someone to say, but I don't think I can do that. I went home that night and we played a bit more guitar after this thing with all these cool people we've been hanging out with, these cool Buddhists. And one of them came back, and that night we had to have a vegetarian meal because these Buddhists didn't eat meat because they believed in reincarnation and that they don't kill any animals. So I had a vegetarian meal, which was pretty bland, and we sat around and I played some music, but now I was playing something different. I was playing music, I was making up songs, I was just doing something which I love to do, as I was just ad-libbing. I was making up different songs and picking something about each person at the table and telling a story about their life. When I got to the Buddhist, I said, "Tell me about your life and tell me what it is that I could make a song up about you." And he said to me, "My life is nothing." I said, "Well, it's something to you, your life." He says, "My life is nothing at all. It's just not real. It's only whatever meaning you give it and only what meaning I give it." I couldn't get my head around that one at all. I said, "Well, you do things, you've got a mother and a father you come from and you have a job to survive and there's things that you love and there's things you're passionate about. I'll sing about those things." He said, "All of those things there are meaningless to you and the meaning I attach them is only at that given time what I'm feeling, but not necessarily so." I said to him, "I'm finding this really hard to even understand where you're coming from. I don't get it. I don't understand. I'm a little bit confused." He said, "I know you're confused." He said, "But this is one thing. Your place and where you are does not reflect how you feel. And right now you're still deep down, still not feeling real, who you really are." He said, "The things that determine how you feel, it's determined by the choices you make." And I was like, wow, man, I've been making some pretty bad choices. He said, "You choose to feel what you're feeling because it serves you on some level. And that can even be a bad level." He says, "You're choosing to put drugs in your body because it serves on some level to numb you, not deal with what it is. But what you're doing is you're numbing the very thing that you need to look at to get rid of so you're not suffering. So long as you keep on smoking all the time or having too much sex or too much of everything, you don't give yourself the chance to deal with the pain and find out what it is so you can let it go for once and for all. I went to bed early that night because it was all too much. I don't process stuff very good. Well, I didn't back then. Woke the next day feeling a little confused and a little sort of mixed up in my head, thinking, I don't know where this is going to go, what I'm going to do, what's going to become of this next, but I need to find my way in the right way. And I think it's going to start with me making some different choices from what the bloke said the night before. I gave everybody a hug goodbye and left that apartment, and then I jumped on a train and I headed all the way back over to Frankfurt. I had some city friends in Frankfurt at the Hauptbahnhof, and it was a place where I would go because people there had no expectations. They lived on the street. I had my friend Al, and it was the Italian guy I originally met there. There was a few other people that banged around. I didn't want to go back to the Irish pub because I'd be back in the same place. Went back to go and find Al. Didn't find him, but I met up with another guy who'd been friends with him, and I met up with him down at the Hauptbahnhof. That's the train station, and he was a guy that had a little ice cream. He was an Italian guy, he had a little ice cream stand, and he sold Italian ice cream. And he was a really, really lovely, lovely guy. About my age, come from a terrible background. And I hung out with him and stayed with him that night at his place. Can't remember his goddamn name, I wish I could. It was an Italian name, but I just can't remember what it was. And I lay in bed that night, and for the first time in a long time, I really started to feel like, man, I know what's going on now. I know that I've got to let go that woman that I loved. I've got to let go that I've just got to let the whole thing go. And that's going to hurt because I'm holding on to it because I still want to have that nice feeling, but I've got to let that go. Otherwise, I'm going to continue to suffer. And from that night onwards, that's what I did. And every time I had a feeling of missing her or trying to replace her with something, I just imagined that leaf on the river floating away. It took me a long time. But then after a while, sure enough, it worked. And I found more and more that summer myself feeling happy again. After that time of not working had gone by, I had a pub to go to, and I forget the name of the town. It'll come to me. They had a Chinese shop where they had Chinese food, which was just absolutely delicious. And I used to eat the duck there. Oh, what was the name of the pub? One of the Dwyer brothers had it. Mick Dwyer had the pub. Mick Dwyer. Now, what was the pub? Where was it? Oh my God, it's not. Can't recall. Nevertheless, a funny little pub. Got in there that night, and I played, and I had this newfound happiness in myself. And the audience felt it. They could feel it. Everybody was like vibing with me, and the vibration went right through the whole crowd. And suddenly, girls were looking at me again. I thought, I'm not going to go there, I'm not going to make a pig of myself. I'm going to enjoy this freedom for a while. And the whole audience through the night picked up my vibe. When I finished the gig at the end of the night, I went up to the barman and I said, bro, this has been a fantastic night. He said, yeah, it has been a fantastic night. We don't normally have a crowd like this. I did bring a crowd in. I was travelling under the name of Spider. And he said, you're staying tomorrow night too? I said, yeah, I am. The following morning, I went down to the park, and I'll see if I can dig out the picture. I don't know if I can find it, but I sat and I drew. I used to do drawings. I just sat and did a drawing with my little pen. I don't think I'm going to be able to find this for you guys, but I just did a drawing of where I was sitting of this building, just a black and white. Did this picture, drew it, sat back, and because I love drawing, I love to paint and love drawing, and I thought, oh, now that I'm not ruminating and thinking about this woman that I love so much, I'm now starting to think about things like drawing again, which is what I love, and painting and art. And so music and art and everything started to come to me again. As soon as I let those bits go, and I was now filling it with something else. And that began a whole new adventure for me, and that was doing portrait paintings. And I started to do these portraits. Now, I'd been over to Crete, and I'd met this girl called Tara O'Brien, and she was also doing portraits. That was what she did. She sold portraits to the tourists. They'd take a photo of them, and on grey paper, she'd do a picture. And then that picture would be sold the next day. The people would come back and she'd give it to them, and they were stunning pictures. I started doing the same thing with musicians on the circuit I was playing with. And these musicians, But my fellow musicians, I'd meet them and say, hey bro, do you want a painting of yourself? And that became another little side hustle for me. I really enjoyed it. And realism is something that I'm quite good at. I started doing these real pictures of people, real paintings of people. And the very, very, very first painting I did was myself. And I will post this up while I'm talking right now. I'll put it to the side over here. Let me just sit over here. It could be on the side here. This here was my very, very first painting ever. I've kept this one. The rest, this wasn't a good painting. This is the first painting I ever did. And this is in Zabrooken, Irish pub. This is me younger playing on stage. Those red pants and that frilly shirt I used to have and the black, that was my image. And that was my very first painting. I knew nothing about art other than what I'd learned at school. I did get school cert art, but I'd never done any courses on painting. That's oil there. And that was my very, very first painting. And from that there, I'd gone from my pencil sketches to oil paintings, and then I started doing acrylic paintings. And I started selling these paintings everywhere I'd go. And I now had an extra form of income, but it was also something that I really, really, really just enjoyed doing. It was something that was just me. So what I'd done in effect, I've got rid of the pain and replaced it with creativity. Anyway, brothers and the occasional sister, I wasn't going to keep on talking about Germany, but I decided there are a few more stories to be told. Today's one's been a bit slow, but there are slow moments in all of our lives. And there are solutions to problems. I hope you've enjoyed this Bro Check Club video. Go steady. If you know a brother that's struggling, share the video with them. And I'll leave you with this song. Freedom, freedom, oh freedom. Freedom, everybody free, everybody free. Oh, I'm so far, I'm so far from my home. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Oh, sometimes like a motherless child. Oh, I'm so far from my home. From my home. Freedom, freedom, oh freedom. Freedom. Everybody, everybody free. Everybody, come on and be free. But I tell you, I'm so far from my home, from my home. Sometimes I feel like the walls are caving in on me. Sometimes my soul just cannot be free. Oh, sometimes caving in on me. Oh, I'm so far from my home. Sometimes feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes like a motherless child. Oh Lord, I'm so far from my home, Lord, from my home, yeah. Come on, come with me. Now set yourself free. Oh, I'm so far from my home. I think Richie Havens opened Woodstock with that song, but I'm not quite sure. Have a good one, brothers. See ya.